Scene 115, take one.
My name is Teresa Grenot. I'm from Los Angeles. My parents grew up in Los Angeles, and I came to this area about age 24. That was 1984. I wanted to live on my own independently, and I knew the rent was lovely. I was working in arts management at the time, Los Angeles Theater Center. So I must have heard through that grapevine there's a room available, and it dovetailed very nicely for my lifestyle at the time. I arrived with a cedar chest, a huge cedar chest that someone helped me drive here, but I had no way to get that up the flight of stairs. So two guys just saw me with a cedar chest, and they lifted it off the truck and they brought it up to my room for me, which was a great introduction to the hotel. Really nice, friendly people who gave you your privacy, but were there to help you when you needed them. If you loved Los Angeles, and I have always been in love with Los Angeles, it was a great location to be at. It wasn't for everyone, but it really, really suited me. We were choosing to live under these conditions, and they were spare, and they were very, very tough. No refrigerator, no stove, bathroom down the hall. You had to be up for it. You had to be willing to make those sacrifices to be here with the energy, and that's why I was here. I was in arts management. I was not an artist, but I respected the energy. Camp for adults gone awry. It was very intense. Everyone had their bucket when they went down the hall. So your soap and your shampoo and your paper, and you took everything with you. It was co-ed. I remember getting ready for dates, and other people, guys, would be there shaving, and you could always ask them, all right, is this working? Does this work? How do I look? Is everything okay? You know, they'd let you know, help you out. Great camaraderie, and you could go on your way. I was in a symphony. I would dress up in my black velvet to go to concerts. So I was the odd man out, but no one hassled me about it. Well, still in basic black, which was sort of the dress code. So I was in love with it, and yet I wasn't. It was not easy living at all, but it was great. People would create art, whatever their medium was, in their rooms. People would sell their artwork downstairs. There would be impromptu art exhibitions, impromptu performances, impromptu parties. I remember one exhibition on the street on the way to the party in a lot a few yards from here, and a woman was making a social protest about animal cruelty, so she locked herself in a very, very, very tiny cage. I remember passing that as I went to the party, where someone had a trash can lid, flipped it over, and was serving champagne in small glasses to people at the party in the open lot. That was a great deal of fun. I remember coming home, a hard day's work one day, and someone had set up an impromptu art exhibit going up the staircase. Someone had created a Betty Page-esque lingerie art exhibit, but had managed to put pieces of lingerie tacked to the ceiling. So they must have gotten a crane. I don't know how they got that far up to do that. Always different, every time. Good, the bad, the ugly. Everyone knew of the airplane. It was center stage. It was wonderful. I remember being able to open my window. It's a brick frame, no screen. You could reach over with your leg, sitting on the ledge, so one leg out to the universe, one leg inside. And when anyone would visit me, all I had to say is, look for the plane. I mean, it was the best landmark in the world. I loved it. I loved the plane. I've gone to Els Bar, I went to Els Bar, but I didn't hang out significantly in Els Bar. Didn't hang out in bars in general. Everything happening in Els Bar, I heard anyway. It all floated up to my room. So I got Els Bar, the experience filtered. No Talent Night was always a very special night for me. My dresser would shake. I would be in my very tiny little cot, crying, usually. It would be so intense. I would leave between about 10 and 1 a.m. to miss the fun part. And I would make sure I was back before the bar closed, I was a single woman living alone, and yet I felt amazingly safe. I would walk to Little Tokyo at all hours of the night and the early morning. I remember Suehiro's, which was a Japanese cafe, would be open until the wee hours. And I would always see people from the building or people I knew in the arts community would always show up there. The Atomic Cafe was amazing. I loved that place. And again, that's a place where you'd see everyone from the community. I would walk by myself. I would never do that now. Nothing ever happened to me. No one ever bothered me. There was a feeling of invincibility and a comfort level being in this community. I felt very strong and safe. This was my community, and I could walk at 1 or 2 in the morning to go get a bite to eat. It was great. Oh, the specter of George and his hat and his broom. He scared me. He was always there and would make quite a racket in the wee hours of the morning. He might have been sweeping the halls. He was taking care of business. His door, very late at night, would be open fairly widely, so if you were walking through, you could see in, and he would watch television through his mirror. It appeared as if he were holding wires together, crouched behind it, and he would watch the reflection of the television in the mirror. It felt a little creepy to me. He kept me in my room with the door locked. He was Lord of the Halls. He would yell at people, I think to get out of the halls, which makes no sense whatsoever. But this was his place. This was his territory, so I kept out of his way. Lloyd was a homeless person that was always around outside. And people in the building took care of him, would give him clothing, things of that nature. He was very particular about colors and type of material, so he didn't accept all offerings. He knew what he liked.
For every time I cried all night,
He was here for years, and it was always fine. I would see him as I would go to my car, morning, noon, or night. He may have been inebriated a good part of that time, wasn't sure. But he was part of my transition out. I had come to take my things and I was moving. I was by myself, so several loads, a little at a time. I still had things upstairs in my room. I was almost ready to go, but I still had a few more loads to do. And it was a late afternoon, and there was absolutely no one else around. There was just Lloyd and myself. He knew me, I knew Lloyd. Dynamic was always fine, but that afternoon, something shifted. And he just sort of gave me a look that I will remember always. Something was wrong, something was awry, and he came for me, he came towards me. And I went around the car to the other side, opened my door, dove in, drove off, and I have not been back in 30 years until today. There was live construction going on while we were trying to live here, and it was definitely a message. Move out, move on. They were working on the roof. They were working on our floors. Imagine trying to live during that kind of earthquake renovation. You could say hi to your neighbor through your floor. For me, that heralded a time that it was time to move on. I needed a roof and a floor.
Would you ever think of moving back into the American Hotel now?
I prefer not having to run around with a bucket. I'll leave it at that.
Cut?